Welcome my friends, this is Maniacal Incorporated and this is Songs of Silence, a 4X turn-based strategy from Chimera Entertainment, and a big thank you to them for sending me on a copy to check this out. I've been playing the main campaign over on the main Maniacal Inc channel, go and check that out if you haven't done so, but what I want to do today is to take a look at one of the scenarios. I'm going to take a look at maybe the first 10 turns of Song of Cinder, which is going to put us in control of the insidious Crusade faction. As we start up, we arrive in the bottom right hand corner of the map and are greeted by the Enclave. And we get an example of the stunning Art Nouveau art style that the game uses. These figures do not have any eyes, marking them out as firstborn in the lore of the game. The song, the hymn, created the world and all the things in it, and these are the firstborn. Later, the Celestials awakened some of them, who became Star Chosen. They basically got eyes, and our faction, the Crusade, is now spreading the silence to return the world to where it was before the civil war between the Firstborn and the Star Chosen. For this scenario, we have been given our objectives, which is pretty much just to keep our two heroes alive. We have some optional objectives to build 10 temples and to convert some Firstborn willingly, and some challenges, so one of which is to not build any temples, meaning that there's a number of different ways to approach each scenario and a bit of replayability in completing the challenges. The Crusade starts with 2 armies, one small one under the command of the Acolyte based in a refugee camp. The camp itself has very little going for it. It generates 7 gold per turn, and we can see in the top left hand corner that we have our gold total, our building material total, and our void essence, which is our faction unique resource, which we would use on some cards, and some characters would use that resource. At the moment, however, this army is made up of rather weak Thralls. These are our basic human infantry. They are believers. They have a power of 2, which is a measure of their attack and defense. But they also have Banding Believer. This unit gains +1 power for every other friendly believer type unit in the army, up to a max of 3. We also have a beast, a primordial beast, a Purzel, with a power of 5. So that's going to be our tank as we go into combat, and here is our hero, the Acolyte, with a variety of different stats. So they have 12 health, 8 power, they're ranged, so they'll stay in the back row, and this is the actual formation that this army will enter battle in, so we can move our units around the way they enter in different parts of the map. But we'll obviously keep our ranged in the background. Now we have our full army at the moment, but I'm going to start putting out more Thralls. We'll put these in the garrison, and these can be upgraded later on. At the moment they are quite basic, but these Thralls, which are basically mind-controlled humans, can be upgraded into various different types of units with higher powers. We also have a much stronger army under the control of Aldous of Gaunt, who has the healer trait, which is fantastic. Usually you would need to try and get them into a settlement with supply for them to re-heal, but Aldous is able to heal the units on the move. Here's Ringbound, here is Augurs, and some Chosen, and these are all upgraded forms of Thralls. What we'll do is put out a random Thrall. So we're now up to our max capacity. We could get Thralls or Firstborn. On the overworld map, we can see some of the Enclave positions, and there's some close to us as well. We can see also marked are some interesting sites, and visiting these is how we would further our attempts to convince Firstborn to willingly join our army. Now, one of our other optional missions is to build temples. Here we have the Black Temple strategy card. Costs 30 gold, 40 building material. Adds gold income and 1 supply to a friendly location, so I'll drop that there. And we can now see that our camp has a number of new stats. It has Black Temple 1, which allows us to recruit Augurs, and this is a card that we can actually play on Thralls to upgrade them. We're generating 14 gold per turn. We can bring loot wagons back here and convert them into cash, and we also have supply, which means that any units that are not at max health will heal over time. To the west of our starting location, we have a neutral natural site, the Wild Woods. It is an adventure site. It has a fairly small defense at the moment. These grifflings or gryflings are fairly weak, and these are the main concern. Primordial beasts, they're ranged, which means they're going to be spitting acid, but I have no doubt that Aldous of Gaunt will be able to take care of them. Now, the battles in Songs of Silence are quite interesting. It's a bit of an auto-battler, so these guys basically take off at their own pace. I can hit space to pause the game, and we have battle cards that we can play. So here, for example, is Chant of Protection. Placed in an area for 10 seconds, friendly units within the target area gain increased power when defending from attacks. So we'll put that there, as the ranged units are hitting that at the moment, and here is another ward that we can apply on our units down in this direction. Now, the problem with most of the Crusade units is that they're quite slow moving. So these ranged guys are getting off plenty attacks before we actually get anywhere near them. Once Aldous gets in, he should make quick work of them. And we have a victory. Our casualties were fairly low, so we have 1 unit of Thralls, and we lost 4 out of the 18 combatants. As long as 1 combatant survives, then that unit as a whole can be healed. Now, even though we have won that battle, we do not actually control the site. Our units, their health is fairly solid. So to take control of an adventure site like this, we have to actually explore it. And we can see again some ranged units here in the front. These are Hexdoles. Aldous has gone in again, is making short work of everyone. The remaining beasts cower in fear, and the biggest of them approaches in a gesture of submission. So this actually gives us a new unit, the Hexdole. The red flags of the Crusade have been risen in the forest. We can now actually level up Aldous, and we can also build the Black Temple there, but I don't have the material at the moment. I'm going to start by leveling him up. And this gives us access to new cards. Now, these could be battle cards, they could be recruitment cards, or they could be cards that would allow us to build extra buildings. So here, for example, is a fantastic one, Chant of Expiration. Place on an area for 6 seconds, and enemies in that area will be attacked by a small amount of power. We can upgrade one of our existing cards, Chant of Protection. This is an interesting one, however. The Black Reliquary. It's a relic, and it would give +1 power to Void and Believer type units, and most of our units are Believers. It would decrease the power of all other units, and unfortunately, one of the new ones that we have just gotten is a Beast, but I'm going to take this. It's 100 gold. This is what our unit looks like at the moment. In the reserves, we have 2 loot wagons, 74 and 100 gold. We have the Hexdole, which I can now actually... It was put into the back ranks because I didn't have enough space for it in the army, but now that Aldous has been upgraded, we can have 6 units, so it's a ranged unit. I'm going to keep it back there. These guys are healing. And what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to bring the Acolyte from our camp. I can actually transfer units from one army to the other. With those loot wagons, I can now send him back to the refugee camp. All of those wagons are converted into money. And back in those Wild Woods in 10 wheel, we have a couple of options. We could recruit some Griffling. They're kind of weak. We could summon a random beast of the wild, or we could get a Black Reliquary. So if we look at the moment at Aldous has power of 6, the Ringbound have power of 4, the Hexdole have a power of 4, and if I buy one of these reliquaries, these guys have now gone up to 5, up to 7, and these guys have gone down to 3 because they are Wild Beast Horror. They do not have the Believer trait. So all of our Believers, our true Believers, have gained extra power. So that's a fairly hefty turn 1. I'm going to call the turn there. I'm not going to do anything with the Acolyte, who, during the night, has some spooky dreams of Lady Dana telling him that he's her favourite, and she has a gift of power for him. And that gift is a new battle card, Mind Control. Target enemies stop moving and attacking for 5 seconds. So we might as well put that to use. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to, as we can, upgrade one of these Thralls into Ogres. So they have become a ranged unit. Their power has dropped, but we'll keep them in the back ranks. And we have our Purzel, which is going to tank a lot of the damage for us. Now we could just focus on getting to these sites and using them to bring Firstborn into our domain willingly. I'm not too sure is there a kind of a peaceful way of approaching this, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take the Acolyte with his new battle card and march him on this settlement to the north. So we have a much smaller army. We can automatically get a unit. I'm going to get these guys to stop attacking. So that'll lock them in place for a while and allow our troops to deal some damage. Here's our Purzel hunting down some troops that were falling back and retreating. So once their morale gets low enough, they will turn and run. We're able to use Farewell Song to actually knock some of the retreating enemy back into our own ranks. That poor old Purzel will have a fairly lengthy journey to get back across the field, but everyone is dead. The Acolyte watches silently as the creatures of the void devour one sacrifice after another. Don't let anyone tell you we're the bad guys. We're not. Those sacrifices were totally justified. So this settlement that we've taken has neither the storage for our loot nor the supply to heal our units. We could pillage, but I'm not going to do that. I will instead have Aldous move up and take this other settlement to the north of the Wildwoods. So they have a construct, a big walking soup pot. Should have probably dropped something, one of the defensive ones, on our units back here to help them. But they're tanking the damage fairly well. And our ranged unit is assisting them. Of course, they all have increased power from our artifact. And not a single casualty suffered. Now we do have a neutral army here, and I'm wondering if they'll actually attack our refugee camp. We only have a tiny garrison here, and we're also threatened by one of the Enclave Knights who is going to depart their stronghold and start heading for us. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take both of our heroes, send them back home, dump out the money and get them back to their settlements to defend those locations. Aldous, unfortunately, is not actually able to make it all the ways back. I'm hoping that isn't taken on the next turn, but I needed to get that money back because I want to get down another temple. That neutral army that's running around, it's ran into the forest. I'm actually going to have the Acolyte head out because he's quite close to getting an upgrade. We'll get, I think if I get these guys to stop attacking, the ranged units to stop attacking for a few moments. The Purzel has gone mad and he's actually heading for the back row. Fantastic. We can damage what few units the Thralls were dealing with and they'll head in then against these large constructs. But disrupting the ranged attackers is massively important. I've gotten the Acolyte back to the settlement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these injured Thralls and put them in the reserve, and from the garrison I'm going to move in these Thralls. Now also in the garrison we have these terrifying Watcher units, Construct Guardians. Unfortunately they are garrison only, they cannot be removed from here, but they have strength of 5, health of 8, they are ranged, they do not suffer penalties to their ranged attacks in melee combat. They also have increased armor. They're immobile, so they can't be moved or move on their own, and enfeeble, which means that they will reduce the speed and power of any enemies that they hit, so very powerful garrison units. From his last combat, the Acolyte has also gained a level up. And here is a tough choice. We can upgrade Mind Control to increase the stun duration and to increase the chance of units joining our army, or we could take Coal Reserves. And the handy thing about this is that it would allow us to pull units out of our reserve and onto the battlefield. Our army is quite small at the moment, though this upgrade will actually allow me to field 5 units. I think I'm going to take this. This looks powerful, and considering that Lady Dana gave it to us, we might as well upgrade it. Another quick look at the settlement. It's now only our Watchers guarding the settlement, as I've brought the Thralls, all the Thralls, into the main army. We have a building here, a Light Link 1. It grants 2 him income per turn, old race only, so that would be their unique resource. And by constructing a Black Temple, we will destroy that building. Now we know that an army is approaching from the north, and I want to cut that off with Aldous' army. I think it would deal a bit of damage if it was to hit the Acolyte. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to march out from his settlement. Now, if I extend out, we can see in the bottom left that he has a movement range of 8. And if we go beyond half our distance, we have this image of a boot. And that would indicate that we would march that distance. However, if we only go half the distance, and if we end up in a forest, we will be hidden. Otherwise, we will not be hidden. We'll be out in the open. So if we were hit by somebody, we actually wouldn't be hit by anyone. They wouldn't know that we're there, so that might be helpful in hiding from a larger army. But if we were out in the open and we were attacked, that would be an ambush. It would be highly likely that we'd be ambushed and suffer a penalty. And back in the settlement, we no longer have that Watcher, and I'm not too sure why that is. Was it being generated by the building we replaced with the Black Temple? The best laid plans of mice and crusaders. So I brought this army up to cut off the one coming from the north, and here it is. It's gone around and it's heading for the settlement. This is Ilias the Honourable. She's shown up with a big harp and a big frog with a big hammer. 8 power, so the army is quite small, but very strong, hefty units. And what I might very well do is actually allow them to hit the settlement. So I've moved the ogres from the reserve into the garrison, and we'll put some thralls into the garrison. And what I'll actually do instead is a bit more moving around, bring those ogres, because they're a ranged unit, bring them out of the garrison, because the garrison starts on the front line. So the garrison will actually start in front of everybody else. Aldous wants nothing to do with this huge army that's moving in, that he was sent across to defend against. He's going to begin to move north. And we have an aggressive neutral army. I'm going to attack them, because if I don't, there's a chance that they'll ambush me. So they're getting off hefty attacks already. I'll give these guys some additional defense against the ranged attacks coming in against them. And Aldous is down on the Spitty Devils. A chunk of casualties, nothing serious, and another upgrade. So Chant of Fervor will give friendly units within the area +1 power when attacking. I do like this one, however. We can place it in an area for 6 seconds and it will deal damage to enemies there. So it can be good for starting to whittle away at ranged attacks. And I'm not too sure what Ilya is actually up to. They're after heading north, following, possibly, Aldous. They've now taken up residence in this settlement, so I'm not going to attack that. What I wanted to do was to move on this excavation site. This other settlement by Aldous is defended by a wall, so we'd actually have to start sieging it. We could take it easily enough once we get in, but getting in is going to take some time. So what I'm going to do instead is withdraw him. I was hoping I could get him into the forest and get him hiding. We'll withdraw him as far away as possible. And it looks like what they're actually doing is going for our empty settlement. So we're going to have to ambush Ilias, who tells us that our actions show that we know nothing of their culture. So this is how we peacefully bring them into the light of silence. Now, because they're ambushed, they have their backs to us, and they're not going to be able to turn to take any actions for a while. We didn't get huge use out of that, but it was better than nothing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this new card here. It's going to attack all the units in that range. Aldous has gone in on his own. This unit is actually quite powerful, level 4, so I think about 2 levels higher, 1 level higher than Aldous. They can freeze units, so they're actually quite powerful. I'll put the Basilica down here as well, and we will get some increased power on our units here to deal some damage against the guys coming in against them. We can see enemy units running away as their morale drops, as they take damage and their morale drops. Our augurs, I think, or ringbound, are getting a fairly good amount of shots on the side of Ilias. I'm not too sure where the big frog is, or the frog with the big hammer. Dead. That's where he is. So again, thankfully we didn't suffer any casualties. If we lose all of the combatants in a unit, that unit is wiped out, but as long as one combatant survives, we can re-heal the entire unit, and we have gotten the XP for another upgrade. So I think this is the first building upgrade choice that we've been given, Void Effigy. Now, at the moment, if we were to put that down in a settlement, it would replace our Black Temple. Upgrade Black Basilica, upgrade Chant of Fervor. Or actually, Chant of Fervor, sorry, is a brand new card, so yeah, we'll take that one. Here in our settlement that we have just defended, we have some units of Watchers. We build a Black Temple. We no longer have any Watchers. With Ilias's defeat, a new hero steps forth to challenge us. But Aldous is more concerned with getting to this excavation site, the first of the interesting locations marked on the map. So this is Arthur's Lament. It is a mine that is being overseen by some firstborn civilians, power 4, and a gargantuan power 12 construct, a Whirl Scar, with 28 health. And on reaching the site, what we find is that the civilians are excavating the ruins. There are other ancient constructs, just like the Whirl Scar, around the place, and the Whirl Scar is basically overseeing them as they dig with their bare, bloodied hands in search of the remains of the stone giants. The Acolyte, bless his cotton socks, is shocked and says that we need to help them. But Aldous knows the truth, that the people are actually here willingly. We will still liberate them, though, whether they want it or not. So basically, everyone is just going to have to throw themselves against the Whirl Scar. Let's see what we can do. We can increase some power. We'll get a ward down here as well. Some of our troops are chasing down the civilians. We're actually doing a good chunk of damage, so I'll start taking out these civilians, dealing some damage. Our troops are pushing them back into the ward. And the Whirl Scar crumbles. So many Thralls fell in combat, nearly half our total amount of Thralls. The workers are absolutely horrified, but we tell them that your leaders lie. Silence will soon fall over this kingdom as well. We are not here to harm you, but to take those who wish to live and are ready to embrace change. So 19 Firstborn have willingly joined our army, and we also have an upgrade to deal with. So I think we've seen all of these cards before. I think we've pretty much received all the cards we're going to receive. We can now start upgrading the ones that we have. Here's the Void Effigy. I'm not going to take that. +1 power when defending or +1 power when attacking. We'll take attacking. Now a lot of our units are healing. I'm going to cast Heroic Song. Hopefully get some Thralls. We've gotten Firstborn civilians instead. They're ranged, they have Coward 2, which means that their morale breaks a lot faster. They also have Pioneer, so they reduce the cost of upgrading locations. So if you have a settlement that you want to add a lot of upgrades to, we could actually try and stack it with these civilians for that discount. For example, all the ways back at the refugee camp, we can see that it is a level 2 location, and we are gaining +1 prosperity per turn. We currently have 9 and we need 12 to reach level 3, and once we do, it's going to give us more recruitment options, and it's going to give us the ability to have more buildings. But we're not going to be seeing that in action because we're on the final turn, and what I want to do is, we still haven't taken control of this location, this excavation site, because now we need to explore with our slightly battered army. Aldous, however, is confident. So in Aldous charges and some new units that I have brought out of reserve, or taken out of the garrison, I should say. So everyone has basically lumped themselves in the middle, which is absolutely fantastic for dropping these wards on. One of their units has jumped out of the fray and has been ripped to shreds rather quickly. And so with the battle won, we descend into the depths of Arthur's Lament. In a triangular hole, we see rows upon rows of inanimate constructs. A small pedestal in the centre is inscribed with faded runes, and on it is a kobold cavalry wagon, Golden Eagle. Another relic which increases the power of all friendly units in the same army or location by +1. Bonus is doubled for infantry and guardian units. So with that relic in our reserve, Aldous is now up to 9 power. He's getting 1 from the Black Reliquary and 2 from the Golden Eagle because he has the infantry tag. And he's also getting 3 defense and then 3 situational from his block perk. And now that we fully control the mines, we also have access to the Summon War Titan recruitment card, so we could summon something like the World Scar. However, we would need a lot of building materials, which makes sense, and Void Essence, which we're not actually generating at the moment. So we saw that the Firstborn were getting some of their unique resource from buildings that they had. We'd probably need to get some buildings that would give us Void Essence. And with the mines conquered and with the relic secured, I'm going to construct the last Black Temple of this episode. From here we have lots of different options for what we might do next. We might move north on this settlement and then swing around on the capital of the Enclave. We might continue on to these other sites to find unique items, unique relics which can power our armies, like the one that we just found in that mine. We could focus on building up the settlements that we've already taken, trying to get some cards that would allow us to fortify them. They don't have any walls like this one does at the moment. Or we could simply continue our relentless march forward and conquer everything in our path. This has been the first 10 turns of the Song of Cinder scenario. I quite like the way that the Crusade plays. I haven't gotten to do much with the Void Essence as yet, but I really like the way that they play, and they have some absolutely freaky creatures. If you like the look of Songs of Silence, you can try it out yourself. There is a demo which features part of the campaign, and at the moment it is 50% off as part of the Steam Summer Sale. A big thank you again to Chimera Entertainment for sending me a key to check this out. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'm streaming the next part of Chapter 3 of the campaign over on the main Maniacal Inc channel, and after that I'm going to stream the rest of the campaign over on Twitch, so check me out there if you want to see more of my shenanigans. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will talk to you again in future.